We are live. So I want to say good morning and welcome to everybody who's joining the Unique Peace podcast. I'm Janice, your host, and today I have Brian Orlando with me. He's a local disc jockey here on Long Island and the host of the Rock and Soul Tarot podcast. And we're going to talk about both of those things. So, first and foremost, this is about peace. So, Brian, what brings you peace?
Uh, Music. I would like to say sleeping, but I don't get enough of that. Music is first and foremost with all of my emotions. When you have to be angry, there's music for that, and then it'll bring you peace. When you want to be peaceful, there's music for that to hopefully prolong it. On top of that, sports, even though the teams that I root for are far from peaceful most of the time, it only takes one win or one comeback to feel that peace, especially since I share my love of sports with my grandmother. So I lost her in 2019, but every time the Mets pull off something miraculous, I like to think of.
No, I was I am still a huge Earnhardt fan. I was a senior fan before I was a junior fan. I watched Junior's career from start to finish, and Senior's the one who got me in. So that was always exciting, and you're like elated, and then it's gone for 10 minutes afterwards.
So are you into numerology at all? Like if you saw the number 3 or the number 8, would that mean anything to you?
Oh, I'm heavy into numerology. Like recently, I keep on seeing 1126. I keep on seeing 911. And that one scared the crap out of me until I did a little bit of research. And it's like, it's all good. Both of those numbers are all good. But those like 1111, 111, the triple digits, the double digits, I'm very attuned with. So it's like when I start seeing new repeated numbers, I'm like, oh, what's that? So your grandmother was into numerology or you are?
No, I'm not really into it. I like numerology. I just don't know a lot about it. But when you mention Earnhardt, you know, the numbers 3 and 8 for their cars popped in. A lot of times I'll see the number 11, which was Mark Messier from the New York Rangers number. And every once in a while, if I'm going through something and that number pops up, I just know that it's somebody from the other side because that's what I associate happiness with, the 1994 Stanley Cup.
Very cool. So when music brings me peace as well. And it's like it's very interesting because there's a little bit of parallel because I'm definitely a metalhead. People look at me, they don't see metal. They like country, maybe top 40, which is true. I love a lot of different music, but when I need to shake off the day, when it's been a bad day, when I'm having a hard time, I let like the music guide me. So like if I just need to shake off negativity, I've had a really bad day. I used to put on Stranglehold, just shake it off. Or I'll put on Bring the Noise or something just to kind of get rid of that vibration of negativity and kind of bring it into a better mood. I find that metal helps shake it off. And at the same time, it's like if I'm sad or I'm trying to lift myself up or I want to go to sleep, there's music for that. Like I'll go to sleep to frequencies. I'll put on like 417 or 528, and that's what I go to sleep to just because it calms me down and raises my vibration at the same time. So, what does music do for you? Do you find different musics help you, different genres help you get through different things?
Well, I mean, that depends on the emotion you're feeling at the time because a sad song can make you happy if it reminds you of somebody that, you've gone through something with. Same thing with a happy song. It might not be so happy if it reminds you of someone that's not there anymore or something tragic that happened. But that's the beauty of music because, see, when I think of a sad song, all I know is my first thought is, oh my God, I'm not alone. Somebody else feels what I feel, and I don't wish any negativity upon anybody else, but it is comforting to know that you're not the only one who sees things a certain way. Growing up, there was a song called Runaway Train by Soul Asylum. I was 15 when it came out in 93, and I didn't have a very happy home life. It was very noisy and very tumultuous, but when I heard that song then at 15, it it soothed me because he says, I can go and no one else can go. I know what no one else knows. And that's always what I felt like. I would go to school and they'd say, oh, but your parents are cool and you have so much. And I would, you don't see what I see. Don't tell me what I'm thinking. Don't tell me what to see, because that's not how it is. And that line always resonated. Now, at the time, I used it for motivation. I used Runaway Train to get through anger and say,
Okay.
see, somebody else knows what I want. When I hear that song now, as a DJ, you get to meet some of these guys and you get to talk to them. And we had Dave from Soul Asylum in the studio. I don't know if it could be seen,
Hold
but that's
on, let
the
me
album
see if
cover.
I can get this to work. No, I'm not that smart.
Well, tattooed on my arm is not only the album cover to Runaway Train, but he wrote some lyrics to the song in his handwriting on my arm, which I then had tattooed. And when I hear it now, I'm no longer in that spot where I feel that I need to justify my emotions. I hear that song now and I am elated because I had one of my dreams come true where he came into the studio and we got to play it together and sing it together on guitar. So 30 years later, it has a completely different emotion, a different meaning for me. But if I did need to get through some anger, there are now other songs that have
Right.
come out that I could use.
So, in the realm of peace, what do you find brings you the most peace out of all the genres that you listen to and are familiar with? What would you say brings you the most peace? Like you just need to have a zen moment, you need to have a peaceful moment. What is your go-to?
Any lyric that resonates with what I'm going through at the time. It could be an angry song, it could be a country song. I'm not a country fan at all, but there's a song called Springsteen by Eric Church.
I love that song.
I'm a
I
huge
love that song.
Springsteen fan, and he says some things in that song. You know, when you hear "Born in the USA," do you relive those glory days? And I've lost a lot of friends throughout the years to bad decisions, and when I'm feeling down about it, when I'm thinking about it, wondering, why am I still here? That line to that song brings me peace because I know that there's other people that are still thinking about the glory days. I'm not the only one that has that Al Bundy moment that says, I, I scored 4 touchdowns in one game and that's all I have going on. Because, when you get to that depressive state, you think that your best days are behind you. They're not.
Not
Everybody feels that at some point. And when I hear Springsteen by Eric Church, at that moment, I feel peace because I know I'm not the only one who's ever felt that way.
so you recently here on Long Island did Hope Rocks, and that was yesterday.
Last
That's a
night,
great inspiring event. And you also recently also did an event for raising money for that, where you read tarot cards and you had readers there. So can you kind of discuss specifically Hope Rocks, because that happens to be centered around music and that has a lot to do with how music brings people peace and where we find it in different forms.
it's really hard to have a conversation about mental health and suicide. So if we use the radio waves and dedicate a certain amount of time to having these conversations, you would hope the goal is to encourage other people to not be afraid to talk about it. And Hope Rocks was designed around getting other celebrities to share their favorite songs and share their favorite lyrics that help get them out of a bad mood. Now, in the past, we had a lot of musicians, and the beauty about music is that there's so much of it that taste can range from all over the universe. The problem with musicians is sometimes they have the worst taste in music because their stuff is so out there. That's what inspires them. So this year for Hope Rocks 3, we wound up asking a lot of actors and actresses and other famous celebrity voices. We had Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger himself, the man responsible for more nightmares, talking about what gets him through. Dee Wallace from E.T.
See.
And to hear these celebrities share these songs, and then why, Dee Wallace talked about Happy by Pharrell because she, as a light worker, hears a lot of people's negative stories, negative energy, and she's there to heal them, but that takes a lot
It
out of
does.
you. And then you pop on Happy by Pharrell. She goes, it just makes me want to dance, and you watch, and it's a cool thing. And that's in a nutshell what we want to do every year with Hope Rocks, show the entire world that with music you're never alone. And look at these people talking, they feel just like you do. We can do this. We could talk about it.
Now, I know, just because I know the history from the beginning, choose song. Talk about that and how that has brought peace in your life and in the lives of those at the studio, because that's a
So
special song.
yeah, it started as a tribute to Chris Cornell and then took on a few different meanings for it's a bittersweet thing. All right, so Choose Song started when Chris Cornell passed away. I woke up that morning to the news, went into the radio studio, not knowing what I was going to say, not knowing how to handle it, because one of the greatest musicians of all time, whose music got me through so much and saved my life, just took his. So the only idea that I had was to start off with him playing Led Zeppelin's Thank You. He did a cover of it.
Right.
After that, I didn't have a clue. And the phone started to ring. And it was all of these different listeners on Long Island, listeners from across the country who saw my Instagram post and decided to stream it and call in and just ask me if I was all right and how are you handling things. And then Kevin from the band Candlebox, who knew Chris Cornell personally and had a friendship with him, called me and asked me if I was okay, just because he knew what a fan I was. And I thought to myself, you just lost your friend, but you took the time to ask me if I was handling it well. So it got me thinking about how music can bring everybody together. So I wrote these lyrics and sat on them for 1 year. I was having a conversation with Brendan from the band Wheatus, who does Teenage Dirtbag. And he says, okay, come over. We'll
Uh-oh, you froze. He's frozen. Okay, we're experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. Hopefully, he'll be back in a minute. Hold on. There you are. You back? Nothing like live TV.
All right. So, short story, shorter story, I hope. I wrote Choose Song after Chris Cornell passed away. I got some very talented friends to help me with it. Brendan from Wheatus helped me flesh out the lyrics. And then we got Vinny from the band Sponge to bring it into the studio and create something I could never possibly imagine. And then Kevin from Candlebox did his part. So we had a supergroup song, Sponge, Wheatus, Candlebox, with my lyrics. It was a dream come true. Then we got one of my dear friends, Ashley Massaro. She was a former WWE wrestler, to star in the video. We went to the 1940s brewery in Holbrook, and that's where we filmed the final scene. So you had GoPro cameras sent out all over the country. Vinny filmed his parts in Michigan. Kevin did his parts in LA. Brendan did his parts in Northport, Long Island. And then the finale was filmed in this brewery. The video came out great. Everything was going according to plan. And then 3 weeks before we were supposed to release it, Ashley took her life. And, you know, the irony of it, the tragedy of it, we didn't know what to do. I just knew I was never going to release the song. I'm like, this is done. There's no conceivable way to make this work. It's going to be nothing but an insult to everybody involved. And then a year had passed and the pandemic happened, and 94.3 The Shark was doing a virtual telethon, and Vinny called me up and he would say, cuz, look, I know how you feel, but I think it's time to put the song out. So we went over to Ashley's parents' house and we showed them the video. We talked to them about it. And I'll never forget her mom saying, look, Brian, I think it's great, but this is what she wanted to do. So you're going to put it out. This isn't my decision. It's hers.
Oh, I got chills. That's awesome. That's awesome.
You know, I think even though it didn't go the way I wanted to, when you read the comments in the video for True Song on YouTube and you see all the people that say, oh my God, this song saved me, this song got me through, rest in peace, Ashley, but I hope you know what you meant to me. It did its job. The song made people talk about mental health. The write-ups in the post about it, it shined a light. Now, if somebody who was right there with us in the battle to fight depression lost her battle with it, this can happen to anyone, and we need to have this conversation. And I think what True Song is now is a perfect example as to why it's so important to talk about it every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Now, so before we touch on your podcast, I want to know how you feel you bring peace into the lives of others.
Well, all I know is when I was driving a truck for a living on this island, the people in radio, the DJs got me through. Their jokes, the music they played, that's how I saved my sanity throughout the day. And when I got into radio, I just wanted to do that for other people. I hope that I am the cream in somebody's coffee. I hope that when that coffee gets spilled on their lap because somebody's driving 45 miles an hour in the left lane and there's a lot
Slams
of
on their brake.
yeah, that at least people know every day they can rely on me for something, whether it's my goofy humor, a fact about music. At least I'm a constant to them in the crazy world of the Long Island commute. And that's what I hope I do for people's peace.
Wonderful. And last question, as it pertains to bringing peace into the lives of others and yourselves, how would you advise or make suggestions that people can bring peace into their lives every day, whether it's through music or not?
Everybody has a voice. My voice just happens to be amplified because I'm on the radio, but everybody has a voice. And with social media, you can reach everybody. So you have a choice every day. You can jump online and you can post about politics and how you're stupid because you don't agree with me, or you can share something that might do something for somebody else. I know that it's very important to talk. I mean, I'd be a hypocrite to sit here and say, don't share all your problems with the world, but be careful how you do it. Be careful about who you're talking to because there's people that are going to see everything that you put out, and you want to make sure that if you are broadcasting your bad day, with that, you're broadcasting a solution or asking for a solution, not just putting it out there for other people to deal with too. But if I have something going on, if I really need to talk to somebody, I'm doing it because not to hang my weight on their shoulders, but to see if there's a way that they can help me out. And if we use social media that way, hey, I do have this problem, but can you help me? Is there anybody out there? And now Facebook, Twitter, it becomes a lifeline as opposed to a dumping ground. I think that's how we can bring a lot of peace to this universe.
I agree. I agree. And speaking of peace and bringing peace to the universe, I find that your way of reading tarot cards resonates with me. It's very interesting because you tie in the mystical side of you with a musical side of you. And I appreciate that because just a quick background about me. I am a Reiki master teacher. I'm also an intuitive medium, and I was learning how to do I was always an intuitive medium from a very young age. I just didn't know what the heck was going on as I got older, and then I found the right teachers. I know what's going on now. But spirit talks to me through all of the clairs, but music has always been the thing that has come back and resonated. It's like a song pops in and I'm like, okay, I got to pay attention. And it's very funny because there's a family joke. It's like I dance to the music in my head because I hear it in my head and I know what's going on. Um, so, um, but I know you were very resistant. If people look at your story, you were very resistant for very good reasons in your platforms and stuff, that you were resistant to the mystical side of Brian. Now you've come into your own, you're doing it, and you've had a lot of encouragement. So can you discuss that little journey you're on?
Yeah, I'm 44 years old. I've only been doing this since I was 41. I've been around tarot cards my entire life. Let's see what message the King of Swords, Elvis Presley, just happened to fall at my feet. I have a deck of tarot cards that are designed by this awesome artist named Anthony Parisi. And,
Okay.
but see, to me, the people that I was around who were into tarot were so obsessed with it that I watched it, I think, not ruin their lives, but deter their lives. My mom was a tarot card reader, and at times I would just watch her sitting on the floor, Indian style, with the cards around. Is this one going to call? Is my job going to do this? And I got to the point with it where I developed a pure hatred for it. I could never say to my mother, "What do you think of this girl?" Okay, Brian, let's see what the tarot. No, and yeah, I think because it was so dangerous and I had such an addictive personality, I decided to completely abandon it for years. But then I started to do a podcast through the shark with psychic medium Jeffrey Wands.
I remember that.
Yeah, things just started to happen. People were sending me messages. I was hearing thoughts, and I knew that the people sending them were no longer here. So things got a little bit freaky. And
I can feel that pain.
yeah, in September of 2020, I flew down to Florida to get a deck of my mother's tarot cards, and it was the deck that she had been using for years. So I said, "All right, it hurts to say this, but you were right. I was wrong. Teach me how to do this."
To teach you. Okay, so we do have a request from, I do not know if I'm pronouncing her name right, um, England Zona Navales. She's like, can you pull a card for me?
Sure.
So, and Michael says your story's great. That's a great story.
You know, the images of the Rider-Waite deck are some of the earliest I could remember. All I know is when I was like 2, 3 years old, I'm like, why are all these naked people all over these cards? This is weird.
Yeah, that's an interesting deck. It's not my favorite.
All right. Janice, can you say her name for me again?
I do believe it's England.
England?
Yeah.
All right, England.
I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
We're going to use the Anthony Parisi tarot deck here. Universe, what would you allow me to relate to England? All right. So we have the Queen of Pentacles, which is Joan Jett. Now, there's an interesting story about Joan Jett being a female, breaking out onto her own because the Runaways were really the first Spice Girls. They got a bunch of girls together and said, just do what we say. Joan Jett decided she was going to create her own path in music. So she started her own record label, Blackheart Records, so somebody would put her out. So England, here's based on the request and what I see. I think that it's time to take a blank you attitude. The only decision, the only influence that you need to worry about right now are the honest ones. There's people in your lives that I believe are giving you advice that's not based on your best interest, but theirs. I think now is a time in your life, if this sounds somewhat familiar, to be really careful about who you're getting advice from and start to make your decisions based on what you're feeling, how you're feeling, and do it your way. This is not the time to fall in line with tradition. This is the time to create your own for the future.
All right. So I hope that helps her. That's great. So another thing that I wanted to ask is how did you start your podcast? Because you do the Rock and Soul podcast and you're doing each card upright and then you're going to go back and do them in reverse. So how did that come about?
Well, it started because of my very first tarot card reading. After I got the cards and I started to study the meanings, I realized that I'm not really feeling what I'm reading in these books. You can go to the bookstore right now, get 10 books on the definitions of tarot, and read them 10 different ways. You know,
Yep.
each book has got a different explanation for what each card means. I'm like, this isn't going to work for me. So I'm like, the only way I'm going to figure this out is to just do it, right? I don't have anything memorized, just do it. And the first person I read, I kept saying, I kept seeing Steve Miller, jet airliner, like a big old jet airliner. I apologize in advance for my singing. Now, this girl was a bartender. I didn't really know a lot about her. I just knew that she was a bartender. And I just kept saying, I kept hearing and saying, you've got to spread your wings or you'll never fly to your next destination. And I repeated that maybe 5 times throughout the reading. And I could see this, I could hear the Steve Miller song, I could see the plane. I didn't know what it meant. I'm like, I'm just coming up with corny dad lines, you know? And
Oh, just so you know, Angelin says thank you.
you're welcome, Angel, and I hope that helps. At the end of the reading, she go, I had said to her, you got to start breaking out. You got to find new opportunities. And she says, it's funny you say that. One of my customers came into the bar and offered me a job on her private airline as a stewardess. Well, besides almost jumping over the table, like,
Hello.
really? I realized at that moment that my best way to talk about this and receive the messages is through music. So I decided to come up with my own system of tarot, and I apply a song as a baseline to each definition. And then you realize that if I pull a card for you, pull a card for someone walking down the street, it could mean 2 different things. So start with a baseline of what a song means or a story from a musician, and then go from there. So I have the major arcana done, and I'll be done with the suit of pentacles today. I take a card, I associate the card through the baseline of the rider weight deck definitions, and then apply a story about music. So take the magician. When you see the magician's really encouraging you to use the tools that you have. You don't need to go out and get millions of dollars in loans. You have to work with what you have. Everything's right here. Stop looking to the outside. Use what's in front of you. Okay, so Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was a left-handed guitar player. He was poor. He lived in Seattle. He didn't have the money to buy a left-handed guitar. He was the greatest guitar player in the world, but how was he going to play? Well, he restrung the guitar upside down and flipped it. So to me, that is the epitome of what the magician is, using what you have and getting creative with it to come up with something new. So that's how I explain each card, and that's why I do the Rock and Soul Tarot podcast.
Now, I have a fun question for you. Is your mom happy you're doing this? Is she like, I told you so happy? Or she's like, yay, finally?
She's happy, but she's way more traditional than I am. So, the battle continues because once again, I'm the rebel teenager defying her. It's like, no, yeah, this is how you do it. This is what it means. But no, she's been phenomenal, and I do rely on her when I really get stuck. But I also realize that I'm going to have to come up with my own way.
No, and that is, I mean, I've had a few of my teachers as well say, especially when reading cards, because I don't read cards for others. I read them for myself. If I want cards read, I go to somebody like I go to you or go to my friend Lance. I go to a couple of other people because they don't make sense to me for other people. And sometimes they don't make sense to me when I'm looking at them. And I've had the traditional deck and it didn't. I was like you. Why are all these people naked, and why doesn't this make sense? So I moved on to angel cards. But finding what they mean to you is important because that's going to help with the stronger readings. So your mom she may be more traditional, but finding your own way to give the stronger readings is the best way. So
So,
that's
another part of finding your own way is I don't read for myself. I never have, and I don't think I ever will because I don't want to get stuck into that trap of relying on them for an answer. Even with the stuff going on in my life, I've only had a few readings, maybe on two hands in my life, because I always feel that I'm too stubborn for a reading personally. You're going to tell me, hey, it needs to be done this way. And it might even be optimistic. It might be positive. And I'm going to say, you know what, Janice? No, you're wrong. I'm right. Watch me screw it up just so that doesn't happen.
I'm going to batters and see. Happens so terrible.
okay. Sorry, I'm getting my boyfriend. He does a lot. He does his own podcast. He does live streaming consciousness, so he's helping me out. So I'm just gonna. So on, just want to let people know to go to YouTube and search Rock and Soul Tarot.
Yeah, I have some videos up. I started the YouTube channel before I started the podcast because I wasn't really sure where I was going with it.
So finding your way is like when I was learning as well. I'm like you. I don't read myself. I follow my intuition, but I won't read myself. I'll go to others for readings. But the biggest thing is honoring what comes through, especially for other people. So I'm going to say this to you. I know you are not a Nickelback fan. I say this out loud, knowing this, but they have a song and it always hits home for me. What are you waiting for? So when we were getting ready to do this, this is for you. It's not for me. What are you waiting for? I don't know what that means to you, but what are you waiting for? There's something in your life that you kind of need to address and make a decision on, but that's up to you and you're holding back.
You are the fifth person to say that to me in 3 weeks. Two of those messages were from the other side, and two of those messages were just from nosy friends of mine.
I'm not a nosy friend.
No. The truth is, I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm just playing dumb, but that's 5 times now that's come up. I don't know what I'm what I'm holding back on. I'm doing the readings. I'm doing the podcast. If it has something to do with the metaphysical aspects of my life, I'm stumped.
I don't think it does. And I'm right on that. It does not have anything to do with the metaphysical. So there's some choices there. But for like 3 weeks, when your name comes up, I hear that song. And I know you're not a Nickelback fan, but that's a pretty powerful song. When you listen to it.
So it's really funny that you bring up Nickelback because most of my listeners know, like, the common joke is I have an unhealthy hatred of the band. I feel that they are the most obnoxious, and contrived. Like he's yelling in every song. Look at this photograph. Why are you yelling? You're looking at a picture of your friend. Why does that make you angry? Um, but a couple of weeks ago, Nickelback put out a song called Those Days, and it's
Mm-hmm.
basically Photograph Part 2. But the lyrics in that song hit me so hard, like a ton of bricks, that I can't deny them. He says, remember when the streetlights came on, it's time to go home. Remember when Elm Street came out, you can't watch it alone. You remember when we thought first base was just holding hands. And it's about friendship and everything that I value in my life. And I became a huge fan of the song, and I listen to it at least once a day. So the fact that their music is now bringing me messages over the past month, maybe there's something to the whole thing.
So that, I mean, I couldn't hold it back because I mean, as you know, they'll repeat until you speak, and I've learned that it will repeat until you speak.
I think it could be
Um,
one of two things, and I give you all the credit in the world because the medium side of this is still something that I am very uncertain with. Tarot cards, I'm really starting to figure out. The medium side of things, I'm still very nervous about because I don't, like if I turn it on, am I going to be, watching movies with all of my dead friends for the rest of my life and them ruining the endings for me? Like, how do I turn it off?
it doesn't work quite like that. You do have to have boundaries. You have to let them know your office hours. I'm available from this time to this time. And I don't like walking up to strangers. I'm not like a Teresa Computer. I don't walk up to strangers. People come to me. But it's like if spirit's waking me up at 3 in the morning, which they have been, and I have to take note, I'm like, well, is this for me or is this for someone else? And can I go back to bed now? so,
When
but you have to be firm with those boundaries and let them know and kind of ask them, who's this for? Be guided to who's this for.
that has been my problem. And that's why I went down and got the tarot cards in the first place, because I started to absorb other people's energy and it was really hurting me. It was getting in my way. I thought I needed to see a therapist. Honestly, I was like crying at the weirdest times. And I'm like, this is not me. Like, I don't have any reason to be this upset. And then what wound up happening was I had an interview with Candlebox. It was still during COVID. So we were doing these Zoom interviews with listeners to give them a feeling of winning something. Like, hey, you want a Zoom key?
Yeah.
Ask them a question. And I knew I'd be talking to Kevin, who's one of my closest friends. And I felt this overwhelming sense of I'm not good enough. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm about to talk to one of my best friends across the country. Why am I feeling this way? My computer wouldn't work. I couldn't get it to turn on. So I ran over to my landlord's house and said, can I borrow yours? She started to cry hysterically in the living room. And she said, I just got turned down for this job, not a job offer, a raise, a promotion.
Okay. So in promotion.
I'm sorry, I've been up all night with Hope Rocks. I'm trying to grasp the English language. Um, and at that moment, I realized, oh, that's the feeling of I'm not good enough. That's what I'm feeling. And then it's like a light bulb went off. I'm like, oh, so this is what's going on.
Right.
And I'm still working on that. I still don't know how to set up boundaries. I still get weird stuff at different times. The
All
tarot
right.
cards kind of help.
That's awesome. So, okay, this is why I couldn't, because normally I would do a meditation at the beginning. So this is why I couldn't finish the meditation. This makes a lot of sense. Have you ever done like a surround, ground, protect meditation?
You
Okay, so this is something before any reading, whether it's a medium reading or a tarot reading, that is really suggested because it says, okay, this energy is mine, this energy is yours, and it's only going to mix for however long this is.
okay.
So I want you to kind of like sit up straight, close your eyes, put your feet firmly on the ground, And I want you to imagine yourself in a disco ball. And just think to yourself, only positive energy is allowed here. All negative energy must be reflected back into the universe for transmutation. That protects your energy from any negative energy, and it also allows only positive in. And you just sit with that for a few seconds. And then I want you to picture white light coming in from above, shooting all the way down to your body, shooting into your feet and all the way down into the earth, and grounding you, allowing you to be present with both heaven and earth energy, and allowing you to be firmly in the moment. So this grounds you. And then you think to yourself, I accept what is mine and allow it to be. They accept what is theirs and allow it to be. And then I am ready to face the day. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And this just kind of allows you to not absorb other people's energy, accept what is yours, they accept what is theirs. If anyone comes at you negatively, imagine yourself in a disco ball, and that energy doesn't go back to them, it just goes out into the universe for transmutation. You don't want to give them their negative energy back. You kind of want to help them dissipate it, but you don't want to take it on.
Understood.
And then grounding yourself so that you are with heaven and earth allows you to be, okay, I'm in this moment, but I'm accepting messages. And then you can deliver those, but you don't want to take on and mix their energy with your energy, because then you absorb it.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like I was a sponge for a ton of people. And, one of the few times I asked my mom for advice on what to do, and I got 7 pages of information on how to ground. I haven't read a book in a really long time. I'm the lazy one who watches the movies. So this 5-minute meditation is so much easier for me.
Yeah, it's just a few seconds. And that's kind of a mix of the many meditations I've learned from several of my teachers. Another really, I know you're not a book reader, you just said, but a really good book from Marianne DeMarco is Medium Mentor.
Okay.
That teaches you and helps you with grounding. It teaches you with connection. It teaches you about the clairs and how to use them. I highly recommend it. I have it. It's a well-loved book. And this is someone, I've been doing it for a while, but it's always nice to never stop learning. I highly recommend this book for anybody who is learning about mediumship, just coming into mediumship, trying to figure out what's going on. Am I a medium? Am I an intuitive? How do I function in my day? I highly recommend that book.
So I have a few books. I have this ADD thing where I read the first 5 pages, ooh, squirrel, and then I'm on to another book. I am making it a point. I just made a promise to myself that I am not reading another one until I read that one front to back. So thank you for the goal.
Yeah, and it's a quick read. It's only like it's less than 200 pages. It's a quick read. And like I said, my copy is well loved. I drove all the way out to Greenport to have her sign it, and then drove all the way home. And I live in Massapequa, so it's not a short drive. And I highly recommend that to anybody who is like questioning or how do I tune in. She makes it easy. It's a beautiful book. I have it highlighted. I have like specific lessons highlighted. It's highly recommended. You should read it. It's less, like I said, it's less than 200 pages. It's a quick read, and you will find a lot of guidance in that one.
You know, I've always found that women have much more they're better at concentrating on these things. They're better at focusing. Guys, for the most part, in general, are erratic and all over the place. And one of the big reasons why I wanted to get into doing this is just to show other guys that it's not so wussy. It's not so lame, and I think the main reason why I apply music to what I do is because that's what I understand. But it's also more of a universal language so that more men can understand what's going on. You know, when you use words like spirit and messages, there's a lot of, like blue collar guys that are like, what? You know, but if you say something like, listen, Elvis Costello has a song, or you covered a song called Peace, Love, and Understanding, and I keep hearing peace, love, and harmony, that might make more sense, because Elvis Costello said it, not spirit, whatever that is to somebody.
And that's your translation. That's how you
Yeah.
translate for
Mhm.
others. Awesome. So before we close up for the day, can you pull a card to get us through?
Yeah, you want one? I'm
Yeah.
pulling for you. So I'm going to use my grunge deck, which is not based on one particular musician, but based on environments and scenes and songs. So I pulled the Six of Pentacles.
Okay.
Hmm. Janet, there's the word that keeps coming up is balance, and the balance that I'm hearing for you, that there's this almost impossibility with what you're trying to do to keep things balanced, and at this point it's got to go in one direction. There's two sides to an album, right? And you're trying to play both sides at the same time, and the music's got to play all the way through one side before you could turn that album over to get to the other side. And right now I feel like you're in the middle of side one, but you're trying to get to the last song on side two so you could put the album away and move on to the next one. So this is still your debut album, and there's a lot of singles left to release on your debut album before you can get to the sophomore album.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm trying to figure that out.
I believe that where you are right now, whatever projects you have going on, you should see all the way through, instead of taking on something new or taking on something more, and tipping that balance. So, I said that you're a big metalhead. You said that you were a big metalhead, but I keep hearing the song by the Smashing Pumpkins. Today's the greatest day I've ever known. Can't wait for tomorrow. I think the message that the message that's coming up loud and clear for me is focus on today. You're looking at tomorrow. You're looking at what else you can do. And there's a lot that you have your eye on, and there's a lot that you will eventually do. But right now, you got to finish this song, and you got to see the sales of this single play out before you release a new one and saturate the market.
Okay. Good advice. I
If that
appreciate it.
makes any sense.
I'm gonna have to let that mull over. It's one of that's a lot to take in. Is that personal? Is that professional? Is that, any number of things?
I never get involved. People will ask me a specific question and I can answer it, but I prefer to let people interpret whatever I say however they feel the need. Like sometimes I'll get a message that they think is meant for one thing and it could be something else. It's not I never feel like it's my job to say, "Oh no, this is about your work. This is about your house." You know,
Right.
the message is out there. You do with it what you need to.
So, thank you. I appreciate it. If you could just hold on for 1 minute, we're gonna go backstage. So thank you everybody for
So you want to end your episode? Say thank you.
Thank you, Brian. 1 second. Just my boyfriend wants to meet you.
Yeah, no worries.
So end your episode.
Okay.
Say thank you to everybody.
I would like to say thank you for joining me today on Practical and Unique Peace. I had to change the name of my podcast. It is now Unique Peace. And I want to thank you all for joining us. And if you enjoyed the conversation with Brian, drop a few comments and we'll get them to him. If he's got any questions, you want a one pull card tarot reading, let us know and I'll get them over to him. And next week, I'll be talking to Jennifer Hone. She is a single mother of 2 who is also a costumier for the MJ Broadway show in the city. Thank you all. Have a great day.